overloaded, and it'll radiate out from the states, or radiate inward, so to speak, from the states towards the federal government. Yes, it'll be a Soviet-style federal structure collapse. We won't see it until probably, I want to say, post-December if we're lucky, so early part of 2010. It may happen in November, but one of the big indicators for what's going to happen this summer will be the shedding of contractors. So because so much of it is privatized, and we're living in a fascist world where corporations equal government and vice versa, the first things we'll see go will be those third-party contractors that support major contractors, and then the wave will start creeping in until even contractors are shifted, and then finally civil servants.
California Governor Arnold cut off all, or is about to cut off all aid, medical aid, welfare to poor families, which will lead to an obvious increase in crime.
Right.
When we come back, we'll ask Clif to comment on the idea of mass or quasi-mass starvation here in these formerly United States, how bad it might get, and when it may start, as we continue our conversation in just a couple. Let's get right back to it. Starvation in these formerly United States, welfare being cut off to the poor families in California. Purpose, I would suggest there would be other states following along. Crime.
Yeah, all of the unintended and foreseeable consequences of the dollar death lead to that kind of scenario. Remember, I think it was last year, probably early summer, we were talking about this period of time coming up that we're almost in now, and how about 6.5 billion people on the planet now, and about how 2 billion are living under $2 a day, and we're about to add a ton more and I was saying specifically in the North American hemisphere. And this is the first wave of that. As they start shutting down some of the social nets, these people are suddenly plunged into the same kind of situation that exists for those people in Haiti, Dominican Republic, and so on.
30 to 40 million of them here illegally.
Yeah, and now they're suddenly forced into trying to scrounge a living and just make daily food on $2 a day or less.
Well, that's how this country gets down to second and third world status.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's there now. I think it was the deliberate destruction in the 1950s of the inner-city manufacturing base that supported the rise of the black populace into the middle class. When that was destroyed and we started seeing the CIA and their cohorts introducing the drugs into the U.S., it was pretty much a foregone conclusion.
Yeah. All right. Global pandemic, or is this just some kind of a probe to see how fast a virus can spread, how easily manipulatable the public is through a complicit media?
The latter possibly, but as an aside, the former no, because you do that thing on computer. I've got software that demonstrates viral spread in orchards or any other populace. It's called ladder diagramming. No, you do that kind of simulation there. The manufactured nature of it, the supposed accidental release, etc., all of this is very suspicious, but let us note a couple of things. Flus are intensely linked to solar cycles. The solar cycles of the winter in the northern hemisphere reduce light, etc., reduce vitamin D in people. Vitamin D prevents the flu onset, so that's why we usually have the flu season relate to the onset of lower light levels. But flus mutate and get to their most deadly stage in the late spring and through the summer as people become more healthy with vitamin D and so on, but the virus is exposed to greater levels of solar radiation, which cause this mutation process to occur. If one were to have a pandemic and we're going to design it, the perfect time to release a virus is the tail end of a flu season, where it will then have the opportunity to be interactive with solar energies and go into its mutation phase.
Interesting.
So, yes, our data actually shows disease is a huge problem beginning again in late September, but it'll be primarily from, pandemic is a strange word, but from many different causes because of the breakdown of the healthcare system at its core, not be...
Oh, absolutely. We're seeing that shut down now. It looks like it's going to be a great holiday season.
Well, yeah, if you're talking about last year, that was the last good one we've got. But then again, hey, transformation and all of this kind of stuff, it's kind of like fighting. You either like it or you don't. Either way, you're in it. And when it's all over, if you survive, you say, boy, was that something. And that's what we're in. Remember, we've been saying for years, monumental times, otherwise known as epic to those that have to live in us. And I would say that everybody around us is starting to appreciate what epic really means.
I think you're right. And that's one word that still has some traction.
Yes.
So far. And
we're not even into it, really. It'll be very, very visible as we cross the August 16th threshold and these various little other temporal markers start popping off.
Oh, all right. There you have a whole lot of material to think about. And let me tell you, you can read all of this, essentially the same data.
Correct.
Although written out in long form in the reports, the Alta reports from halfpasthuman.com. All right, Clif, tell us what's coming for everyone out there who have been fascinated by the work for such a long time but couldn't afford.
Well, we got into a situation where we were finally able to cover our bandwidth costs. I've got some help from some Polish linguists who turned me on to some neat little programming tricks to get us around some of our filter issues, so we reduced our cost. We actually cut the cost on the report by 90%, and we've got it offered on our main Half Past Human page for $36 for a 120-plus page report in a PDF format.
I didn't know this. $36 for 120-plus pages of half-past human data.
Yeah, the whole last, what we call the 1309 series, plus a little bit more has been added to it as a wrapper, mainly disclaimers and a preface. And we're going to a new format once we start producing new reports now that we're through our filtering process. And the new format will basically be $10 a pop. Come on in and buy it. There'll be an abstract to tell you what's in the report. You can decide, no, I don't want to read it this week, and we'll pick it up next week. And it's as you choose. No subscriptions, no big barrier to entry. We're trying to get as much of this information out there as possible, basically as a giant global radical linguistics test to see if the future is changeable. What happens if enough people on the planet know enough about what's going on or will occur in the future that they can tell their friends, hey, guy, and their friends will say, no, you're crazy, you're a nut job. Then it'll happen, and they'll look at their friend and say, maybe we can change this if we know in advance.
You're seeding, in a way, a collective unconscious with this, too, aren't you?
Yes.
I didn't mean to bring that out, but I had to.
It's obvious. It's a deliberate attempt to use radical linguistics to shift a paradigm, to participate in a process we see ongoing now, and to see if we can't magnify and boost that. Because basically, we can reach a threshold. All of us can reach a threshold, and we can just say, basically, we're going to ignore the entire power structure, not give them power anymore, and they're going to collapse. And we can get on with some really cool stuff. Imagine what will be liberated from the knowledge base that is the deep, dark, secret, black ops part of the government once they can't be funded anymore, and we're looking at everything. I've always hankered for a spaceship or free energy or, a never-ending electrical supply for my boat or, maybe even wings to use ground effect on it. All this is instantly available once we get at that particular knowledge. And in fact, it's led to my particular project at the moment, which is to advance my Russian language technical skills so that I can start reading the nearly 20,000 pages a day that are showing up of declassified Russian documents.
They're dumping that much?
Yes. If you start looking at the academic and all the other stuff that's coming out, it's as though, we've talked about memering before, where the powers that be try and push a meme through society and get it to go with their disinformation agents and so on. What we're seeing now from Russia is very clearly a calculated, deliberate move to put out all kinds of very interesting information that has never really seen the light of day before, on fascinating subjects like torsion effects, tokamak fields.
Real information.
Real information, practical information.
Not tabloid stuff.
Yeah, the Russians are very, very practical. They don't mess around with stuff that doesn't yield results right away because they haven't had the resources to just go into get a grant from the government, so to speak, and make up results, right? So their science is actually that. I don't trust American academia anymore and haven't for years. So this is really absolutely staggering what's available out there. But, of course, most of it's not in any English form, and most of the automated translation efforts are very poor at this very technical language.
Yeah. It's tough to read those things. I hope somebody does get on this, and maybe if someone out there can do translations, please contact Clif. Maybe you can steer some material to some folks, and they can do the translating for you, and we can put it up.
Well, a lot of it has to do with being able to make connections as well, not just simply being raw translations, although there are some of the projects that instantly, once you see what they're talking about, oh yeah, it makes sense. But the real genius of the whole thing is being able to make these cross connections with synergistic effect. Take this and that, and they each magnify each other.
All right, let's make one more pitch for people to please put some food away.
Oh, yes,
I've been doing
indeed,
this for years.
Indeed. Every mouthful of food that you can produce yourself takes that much of a burden off the global system and probably saves a life in Haiti or Africa or somewhere. So I'm out throwing everything I can.
Right, sure. I know you are. Thanks for the pictures.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. In fact, it's real neat. You folks need to have at least 90 days, if not longer, food and water for your families put away.
And have some idea of a permanent supply system, how to grow your own.
Yeah.
And what a truly decent diet is like. Because, for instance, you're not going to be able to grow, Big Macs on trees.
No. Saw a story yesterday about suburban survivalism. People who are living in cities, especially the wealthier enclaves, packing it away in their condominiums and their homes, guns.
That's what was going on with the Dutch newspaper. 1 out of 6 people in Holland are, in fact, they're even going to the lengths of buying floating containers because they expect the sea to come on in and put their food supply at risk, and they want it to bob up so they can get it with their little lifeboat.
No kidding.
Yeah, they're really serious about it. And the Russians are doing work like you wouldn't believe this way.
Wow. All right, when do the new reports come out, Clif, and people can start looking to that?
The new reports, we figure to start offering them on a weekly basis after the solstice, so after June 21, maybe a week before, depending on how the data gathering is going, and it's going pretty fast.
And in the meantime, you can pick yourself up over 120 pages for, what was it, $36? Yeah. 120 pages of the Alta reports. Absolutely riveting reading. You'll read it 2-3 times. It's fascinating. Thank you, Clif. Always a pleasure.
Anytime.
Take care of yourself. Mr. Clif High of halfpasthuman.com. All right, that's our program tonight. I'm going to pause briefly, and I mean briefly. Be right back with you in 21 hours tomorrow night. See you then.